Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining online in Zoom for this our Bhagavad Gita class, the regular Bhagavad Gita class that happens every Wednesday. Before I start my program, let me just take care of a few logistics. Let me post some welcome messages on our online channels, and then we'll start our regular program. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we are going to speak on the topic of divisions of faith, which is chapter 17 of Bhagavad Gita. And then if time permits, we'll also go through chapter 4 of Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, which is the devotional pastimes of Madhavendra Puri, which is who introduced first time bhakti in viraha. Viraha means in separation from. So this is basically the first time the bhakti was introduced by Madhavendra Puri in the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya, and that is what Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya follows. The bhakti, the mainstay is bhakti in viraha, in separation from Lord Krishna. So, and that is if time permits towards the end, but I will definitely try to make sure that we have some time towards the end. Now, before we start Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, I will try my best to sing Jai Radha Madhav, which is a song very dear to our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, and then we'll have Pranam Mantra, then we'll start with Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, Divisions of Faith. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jaya Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Girivaradhari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare Hare Jai Radha Madhav ki. Now we will go through Nam mantra. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vande Aham Sri Guru Sri Yutapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanuvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nitai namene che namerahate Shraddha mulle nam dite chere. Nitai namene che namerahate Shraddha mulle nam dite chere. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Jai Pranam Mantra ki. Now we are going to start discussion. Basically, first we'll go through the verses and English translations. Sometimes we'll read the purport of the chapter 17, the divisions of faith. Now it starts with some questions from Arjuna. The question is, why Arjuna asked this question? The background actually comes from the previous chapter, chapter 16, which is the divine and demoniac natures. And what is the key criteria by which one can understand that someone is of demoniac nature? Okay. So here, so in our contemporary world, we may find people, they're very polite, they're very nice, but they're preaching things which are contrary to what the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, through the Vedas has taught us how we should lead our life. The Varnashram Dharma, the scriptural injunctions. So even though they are very polite, as per the Vedic standard, they are considered demoniac. And we can understand from Srimad Bhagavatam, where after Hiranyaksha was killed, then Hiranyakashipu was giving He was telling very nice instructions to his family that we should not lament, because after all, it's a body. It's a very high Vedic philosophy. But at heart, he was demoniac. He was against the basic dharma of all the basic scriptures, which is basically serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If our actions, if whatever scriptures we follow ultimately does not pleases the Supreme, then it is of no use. And that is exactly what Hiranyakashipu was doing. He was very politely explaining them, a very high philosophy. But he was simply preparing them to be ready to fight against the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. So he was actually using the religion or the religious scriptures to ultimately go against the goal of the scriptures. So here, Lord Krishna says few things, and that is why Arjuna asked this question. So I will read translations from text 22 to 24, and that sets the background for chapter 17. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, the gates of hell are lust, anger, and greed, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. Okay. So this is Lord Krishna is saying to Arjuna. So what are the three gates of hell? Which is basically in the verse 21, the three gates of there are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Verse 22, he further elaborates, the man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. So even if we know scriptural injunctions, if we follow these gates, lust, anger, and greed, it will keep us away from following the scriptural injunctions or distort it to suit our convenience. Further, in 23, Lord Krishna is saying, he who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. Okay? So, he will neither get perfection in any field what he is following. He will neither be happy nor be happy, nor he will reach the supreme destination, which is going back to Godhead, where the four problems of life don't exist: birth, death, old age, and disease. One should therefore understand, verse 24, one should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. So one cannot make up a duty. It is already there in the regulations of the scriptures, what the duty is. Like, for example, in the current age where we are, the prime duty is Sankirtan Yajna. Of course, we are doing deity worship, we are doing chanting, we are doing book distribution, but we are doing all that ultimately, even we are reading scriptures to purify ourselves, but ultimate goal is to get together and do Sankirtan. That is the Yajna, that is the religion of this age. All that we are doing ultimately to do only one and one thing, the religion of this age, which is Sankirtan Yajna, congregational chanting of the holy names. That's the ultimate goal. Okay, that is the dharma of this age. So one has to know, okay, what is duty, what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. Because this is a chapter on divine and demoniac natures, and Lord Krishna elaborately talks about demoniac people. What they are, how they are thinking, what their style of life is, everything. So such people, if they have to be elevated, they cannot become transcendental immediately. So they are mostly in the mode of ignorance. So they have to be slowly elevated. So first step is they have to understand what they should do, what they should not do by the regulations of scriptures. And then once they know that, they should act accordingly so that they can be gradually elevated. Now, this verse 24 is the background for chapter 17, divisions of faith, because people can be in different modes. So for different modes, there are different activities, types of activities involved. Okay. So let's go and read chapter 17. So Arjuna is asking. Arjuna uvacha ye sastra vidhi mutsrijya yajante shraddhayanvita tesam nishtatu ka Krishna sattvam aho rajastama. Sorry. Arjuna inquired, "O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scripture but worship according to their own imagination?" Okay. So whatever we read, so he's asking, okay, what is the situation of those? Okay, means tell me something more. He's not just happy with the Krishna's answers that they won't get any perfection, they won't reach supreme destination, but what is their situation? How do situations means how do they lead the life? How do they do penance? How do they do austerity? Right? How do they do sacrifice? Right? All these people in different modes. Please explain this to me, like those who worship according to their imagination. Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? So let us read the purport a little bit, because in these questions there are many other questions that are hidden, and Srila Prabhupada has elaborated them. So the purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the 4th chapter, 39th verse, it is said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually becomes elevated to the stage of knowledge and attains the highest perfectional stage of peace and prosperity. So chapter 4 is on the transcendental knowledge. In the 16th chapter, it is concluded that one who does not follow the principles laid down in the scriptures is called an asura or demon. And one who follows the scriptural injunctions faithfully is called a deva or demigod, or you can also call divine. Now, if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions, what is his position? He is following with faith. Okay, maybe he created himself those rules, or someone gave him, and that person is not bona fide. Okay, something he gave him, okay, to these rules, and he is following with faith. What is the position of that person? This doubt of Arjuna is to be cleared by Krishna. Are those who create some sort of God by selecting a human being and placing their faith in him, are they worshipping in goodness, passion, or ignorance? Okay, this is very fashionable. Like, some person, they will make a God, make him a God. Oh, he has godly powers. He is my God. Okay, and then they start worshipping. So what happens to them? What is their mode of worship? Is it goodness, passion, or ignorance? Do such persons attain the perfectional stage of life? Is it possible for them to be situated in real knowledge and elevate themselves to the highest perfectional stage? Do those who do not follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but who have faith in something and worship gods and demigods and men, attain success in their effort? Arjuna is putting these questions to Krishna. Because we have to understand, when Krishna came, actually Kali Yuga, by calendar Kali Yuga started, but the effect of Kali Yuga was not there. He stopped it. Still some things were going on at that time. So Arjuna is asking, okay, that, or Krishna knew these kind of things will happen. So Krishna, through Arjuna, he's making him ask this question so that he can answer for the greater good. Okay. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Cheti Tam Srinu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of 3 kinds: in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. Okay. So Lord Krishna is saying, faith, one's faith, Shraddha, faith, actually depends on what is the mode of nature that person is. Okay. That determines the faith of the person. Okay. There is a purport here, but there is a much more elaborate purport later, and that's the one we'll read. Sattvanurupa sarvasya shraddha bhavati bharata shraddha mayo ayam purusho yo yas shraddha sa evasha. O son of Bharat. Son of Bharat is Arjuna. According to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. So the faith one evolves depends on that mode of nature that person is. A living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Everyone has a particular type of faith regardless of what he is. But his faith is considered good, passionate, or ignorant according to the nature he has acquired. Thus, according to his particular type of faith, one associates with certain persons. Okay. Now, the real fact is that every living being, as is stated in the 15th chapter, is originally a fragmental part and parcel of Supreme Lord. So, originally, the living soul has the quality of the Supreme Lord. So, he is transcendental. But because he has acquired a particular type of nature, he mixes with certain kind of people. Therefore, one is originally transcendental to all the modes of nature. But when one forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and comes into contact with material nature in conditional life, so first what happens? The relationship, he doesn't like, for some reason or the other, he doesn't like the relationship with Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as a result, he comes into contact with material nature in conditional life. He generates his own position by association with the different varieties of material nature. So the soul then is the cause. Soul is the cause. Because he comes in contact with material nature in conditional life and avoids the relationship of Supreme God, Personality of Godhead, he creates his own position because of that association with material nature. The resultant artificial faith and existence are only material. Although one may be conducted by some impression or some conception of life, originally he is nirguna or transcendental. Therefore, one has to become cleansed of the material contamination that he has acquired in order to regain his relationship with the Supreme Lord. So one has to give away that contamination and also re-establish relationship with the Supreme Lord. That is the only path back without fear. Krishna consciousness. If one is situated in Krishna consciousness, then that path is guaranteed for his elevation to the perfectional stage. Keyword here is guaranteed. If one does not take to this path of self-realization, then is surely to be conducted by the influence of the modes of nature. Even though maybe he got liberated from the modes of nature, there is every chance, because he doesn't have proper activity in that liberated stage, suitable to his original nature, the soul. Right? So he will again get influenced by the modes of nature and will fall down again. The word Shraddha or faith is very significant in this verse. Shraddha or faith originally comes out of the mode of goodness. One's faith may be in a demigod or some created god or some mental concoction. One's strong faith is supposed to be productive of works of material goodness. But in material conditional life, so faith, this is a very important sentence. If, let us say, one is not transcendental, at least one should be in the material goodness, so one can develop that quality of strong faith. But Srila Prabhupada is saying, in material conditional life, no works are completely purified. They are mixed. Even the goodness is mixed. They are not in pure goodness. Pure goodness is transcendental. In pure goodness, one can understand the real nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As long as one's faith is not completely in purified goodness, the faith is subject to contamination by any of the modes of material nature. Okay. So, if you are not in purified goodness, if you are just in the mode of goodness, not in purified goodness, then there is a chance that the other modes, passion and ignorance, can once in a while dominate that mode of goodness. The contaminated modes of material nature expand to the heart. So that modes of nature, that is contaminated modes of nature, they then go to heart. Therefore, according to the position of the heart in contact with a particular mode of material nature, one's faith is established. So, the faith of an embodied soul or a person depends not so much on his rational faculty, but more on the heart. Rational faculty can tell what is good, what is bad. But if his heart doesn't agree to that, then even though something is bad, he will do it. And why doesn't heart agree to that? Because of the contaminated modes of nature. It's the kind of people, it's the kind of things a person associates with that builds the heart. It should be understood that if one's heart is in the mode of goodness, his faith is also in the mode of goodness. If his heart is in the mode of passion, his faith is also in the mode of passion. And if his heart is in the mode of darkness, illusion, his faith is also thus contaminated. Thus, we find different types of faith in this world, and there are different types of religions due to different types of faith. The real principle of religious faith is situated in mode of pure goodness. But because the heart is tainted, we find different types of religious principles. Thus, according to different types of faith, there are different types of worship. Because there are different types of faith due to heart being contaminated with different modes of nature, and it's not just three. In the sense, a heart is not just contaminated with either ignorance or passion or goodness. It could be mixed. Right? There can be many in between. There are shades of these modes of nature. And so therefore there are 33 million demigods. You worship according to your modes of nature. Right? Yajante satvika devan yaksha rakshamshi rajasa preta bhuta ganamschanye yajante tamasajana. Men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. Those in the mode of passion worship the demons. And those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. Right. So this, I have tried to kind of summarize this in a slide also. Prepare this slide here. So worship in the mode of goodness, they worship demigods for a particular purpose, like the impersonalists who try to worship the demigods because they think the demigods, they are, they consider the impersonal Brahman the ultimate. Okay, so for liberation, for a particular purpose, they worship the demigods. And there are other very pious people, they also worship demigods, but that's in the mode of goodness. In mode of passion, the people in mode of passion, they worship demons. Like Srila Prabhupada gives in one of the purport, he gives an example of someone in Calcutta during the time of Second World War. He used to worship Hitler because Hitler created a situation so that he could earn a lot of wealth in black market. So for him, Hitler was God, okay, and he worshipped. So they worship the demoniac characters for material gain. And in mode of ignorance, there you worship ghosts and spirits. There are some people in India that if they know that it's under certain tree or in a particular tree there is a ghost, then they will go and worship that tree. Okay, and then They do it often to get some material gain, if there's a yaksha or someone. But most of the times they do it to harm others. They, in the mode of ignorance, they worship ghosts and spirits to harm others. But when one is beyond modes, transcendental, because that is the mode, that is when you have pure goodness. That is the position we want to get into, so that we never fall down. Right? Transcendental. They worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because everything came from Him. Okay. And they don't worry about any material gains or harming others, because they know this world is running perfectly as per the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as per its time factor. It is working perfectly. So if I am suffering, then it is because of my past karma. Or maybe the Krishna is trying to test me. Either of it doesn't matter. So, but I will keep serving him. That is their goal. Their worship is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They don't want to harm anyone, or they don't want any material gains, because that will anyway go away. Okay, and even if it doesn't go away during lifetime, it will go away at the point of death. So they understand that, and so therefore they worship Supreme Personality of Godhead to serve. So that is what has been written here, this purport. Ashastra vihitam ghoram tapyante ya tapojana dambha ahankara samyukta kamaraga balanvita karshayanta sharirastham bhutagramam acetasa mam chaivanta sharirastham tan vidhi ashura nischayan. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances, not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, were impelled by lust and attachment, were foolish, and who torture the material elements of the body as well as the super soul dwelling within, are to be known as demons. Sometimes some people do austerity, just to show that they can do so much of austerity, without realizing that it is not just them, that the embodied soul, but there is also the super soul there. You are disturbing the super soul also. You are disturbing your own body, its mechanisms. Okay, they don't realize that. So here, I've extracted this some few important points from this purport into this slide. So they perform austerity and penance for ulterior motive. Maybe they will do fasting to kind of create, like to gain some political advantage. Okay, like they will do fasting for 30 days, like that. And then there will be media attention, and that will put a lot of pressure on the current government, to accept their demands. This is not a proper way. This is not approved by scriptures, to use this austerity and penance for some ulterior motive, for some political gain. They act against the scriptural injunctions. So this is against the scriptural injunctions. That is not the purpose of austerity and penance. Austerity and penance purpose is to purify oneself. Because when you do austerity and penance, you know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through his various energies, has given you so many things you are dependent on. You become more grateful to him. That without those things which I am trying to avoid now, my condition is miserable. So that purifies you. You understand how much you are dependent on the Supreme. They also do things, basically austerity and penance, to disturb and unbeneficial to people in general. Okay, They torture their own body and super soul within. That is what we describe, just talked about in the verse itself, the translation. First, that they will torture their own body. They sometimes become unconscious and they have to be taken to the hospital. And then, of course, the super soul within also gets disturbed. Now, super soul is not getting disturbed like the soul is getting disturbed. Super soul is getting disturbed because he sees that this person is not utilizing the body for what it is supposed to be used for. That is to serve the Supreme and not do austerity and penance to gain the some political advantage. That is why he gets disturbed, not because he gets pained, because the body is suffering. And then what Krishna does? Krishna, then because these people, they act against the scriptural injunctions. So Krishna then says, okay, so this is the kind of life you want to lead. This kind of life you will get if you take birth as a demon. Okay, so I will give you demoniac births, life after life. Live to your full satisfaction, that kind of life. Every life you will get a demoniac birth. Now, they sometimes don't even realize that they are suffering. And that is the height of it. And this actually Krishna talks about in Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, that he gives them, he forces them to go into demoniac birth, life after life, so that they can live that kind of life. Because in demons, they create their own scriptures, they create their own rules just to satisfy their whims and fancies. They don't follow any Vedic injunctions, or if they may follow just to gain some pride and honor, like that. So, but such type of people, once in a while, Krishna arranges a meeting with some bona fide spiritual master, so that these people, these demoniac people, can be saved. So that is how merciful Lord Krishna is. And that is how merciful are these pure devotees, who are these bona fide spiritual masters are. Even if Krishna has abandoned them, but these pure devotees, they feel that why anyone should be left in this world suffering like this. Okay? And we will read about, when we get time, the Madhavendra Puri is one such pure devotee. Okay. Aharastva api sarvasya trividho bhavati priya yagyas tapas tatha danam tesham vedam imam srunu. Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now here are the distinctions between them. So Lord Krishna will start elaborating on these people in these three different modes of nature, what kind of food they like, what kind of sacrifices to do, what kind of austerities and penances they do, what kind of charities they give. So he's going to elaborate on those. Ayusatva balarogya sukha priti vivardhana rasya snigdha sthira hridaya ahara satvika priya. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Katva amala lavanati ushna tikshna ruksha vidahina ahara rajasasyasta dukha shoka maya prada. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. Yatayamam gatarasam puti parushitam chayat uchistam apichamidhyam bhojanam tamasa priyam. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Right? So wine, alcohol, they fall in this category because that's how they are prepared, decomposed. Right? So the verses 17.7 to 10, I kind of summarize them here. The foods they eat in different modes. So in the mode of goodness, so juicy, fatty, pleasing to heart, that kind of food is in the mode of goodness. They give long duration of life, purify the mind and aid bodily strength. In mode of passion, they're bitter, too salty, or too hot. There are other aspects to this kind of food also, but I've shortened it. The main point is, from the purport I gathered, that why they cause misery, distress, misery, and disease is because they reduce the mucus in stomach. So when the mucus gets reduced, so this is Ayurveda, when the mucus gets reduced, the body is not able to digest them well. So your body doesn't get nutrition, and this undigested food remain in the stomach longer, and they cause all kinds of disease. In mode of ignorance, prepared 3 hours before putrid remnants. Okay, so there are other things also there, right? And they cause infection and disease. One thing before I go to the food dear to those who are transcendental, the fatty, which I mentioned here in the mode of goodness, should not be, so from purport, I gathered that this should not be interpreted as animal fat. This is not animal fat Lord Krishna is talking about. This is milk fat, because that is in the mode of goodness. It doesn't harm people, harm the living entity to get this fat. Okay, so fatty food is required for good health, but that is milk fat. Now, beyond modes or transcendental, transcendental is they always prefer what is called prasadam. Now, what is prasadam? Prasadam is mostly the food you prepare in the mode of goodness, and then you offer to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay? And why devotees prefer prasadam? Because first of all, it gives them satisfaction, and second, it helps them advance spiritually. Okay, because Supreme Personality of Godhead can liberate the soul, right? So when he tastes a food that you have offered to him, and then you take that food, then that quality of him exists in that food, and therefore you also feel spiritually advanced. You are able to liberate your soul from the entanglement of the matter. It happens slowly. It doesn't happen immediately. But that's the reason why transcendentalists, they always prefer prasadam. Prasadam, which is the food that is offered to Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna or Lord Rama. Now he's going to talk about sacrifice in various modes. Afala kankshi bhiryagyo vididishtoya ijyate yastavyam eveti mana shamadhaya satvika. Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the directions of scripture as a matter of duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness. Abhishandhaya tu phalam dambhartham apichayvayat ijyate bharata srishtatam yagyam vidhirajasam. But the sacrifice performed for some material benefit or for the sake of pride, O chief of the Bharatas, you should know to be in the mode of passion. Okay, so there is an element of pride. There's something to be gained, material benefit. Vidhinam asristanam mantrahinam adakshinam Shraddha vira hitam yagyam tamasam parichakshate. Any sacrifice performed without regard for the directions of scripture, without distribution of prasadam or spiritual food, without chanting of Vedic hymns, and remunerations to the priests, right? And without faith is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. And I have summarized from the purport also. Summarize this in slide. Sacrifice. So we read, they say for mode of goodness, they have always follow directions of scripture and expect no reward. In mode of passion, they follow scriptures but expect material gain, or they do it for pride. So there, a sacrifice will be very elaborate and opulent. Wow, what a sacrifice. So many people came, so many items they prepared and all kind of things, right? So to gain pride. In mode of ignorance, they do not follow scriptures. Okay. They neither give prasadam, okay, no Vedic hymns are uttered, no remunerations to the priests, and they don't even have faith. Okay, something they are doing, that's in mode of ignorance. They themselves know what they are doing. It looks like to them that they are doing sacrifice because there is some fire, something, but all the other important elements of sacrifice completely absent. But those who are transcendental, what do? They perform the sacrifice that is relevant for this age, Kali Yuga. They perform Sankirtana Yajna. And they distribute prasadam. Why they do that? They don't do it for show off. They do it to please Lord Krishna. Because Lord Krishna gets pleased when we understand our relationship with who is he, our relationship with him, and how we are related to every other living entity. We are kind to all the living entity in our action, in our words. So we do this Sankirtana, and we distribute prasadam for the welfare of all living entities. Sankirtana Yajna, that is the sacrifice transcendentalists do. Okay. Now he is going to actually talk about what exactly is austerity by body, by speech, by mind. He will define the austerity, next 3 verses, and then he will talk about austerity in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Devadvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Sauchamarjavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsacha Sariram Tapa Uchyate. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, non-violence. So when you do all these things, you are doing austerity of the body. Okay. So you are supposed to also pay respect to your father and mother. Okay. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada used to, in his lectures and through his various actions, he preached that we should pay respect to our parents because they brought us to this world. That is why we are able to do devotional service. If we didn't have this body, we couldn't do devotional service. So we must be indebted to our parents. They brought us to this world. For them, because of them only, we got this human body, and we are able to perform devotional service. Right? And of course, we should pay respect to our spiritual master, because it is because of him only we can even think of reaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without that gate called spiritual master, there is no way we can reach Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is the ultimate goal of life. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat swadhyaya abhyasanam chaiva vanamayam tapa uchyate. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. Okay. So, should not agitate others, but that doesn't mean you have to be politically correct. No, you have to be truthful. You have to be truthful. That goes without saying. Okay. So be pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others. Okay. So if you have to choose between being truthful and not agitating to others, you better be truthful. Okay. And you regularly recite the Vedic literature. That is the important part. Because if you regularly recite Vedic literature, which is like 500,000 verses in one of the place in purport in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada is saying that 18 major Puranas, 4 Vedas, where you have the Upanishads, and then the Mahabharata, Ramayana. If you read all that, that's 500,000 verses. That's a lot of verses. Okay, that will make you calm, right? And then you will know what is the real truth. Of course, you have to read with with the senior devotees and all, so that you understand, because there are a lot of conflicting statements also in the Vedic literature, which appears to us as conflicting, but they are not. Basically, they are spoken in different contexts. Manaha prasada shamyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samsuddhiriti etat tapo manasam uchyate. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. So here, let's read this purport, a small purport. To make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Okay. So one question someone may ask, that our body needs some sense gratification, right? In 6th chapter, Lord Krishna is saying that you have to have a balance. So when Prabhupada is saying must always avoid sense gratification, then how our body will get that sensory stimulus? So the point is, when you are in Krishna consciousness in a proper way, you are offering bhoga, you're getting prasadam, you're engaged in sankirtana, you're doing dancing and singing, you will automatically get those pleasures without explicitly going for the sense gratification, which will never make you satisfied. You will always want more and more. That Krishna consciousness activities, the devotional service activities, will automatically give you those pleasures which your senses need. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from the thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification. And so there is no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. The best course is to divert the mind to Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in Puranas and the Mahabharata. One can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. Okay? They will give you satisfaction. The mind should be devoid of duplicity. And of course, for that, your mind has to be simple. Duplicity should not be there. And one should think of welfare of all. Silence means that one is always thinking of self-realization. The person in Krishna consciousness observes perfect silence in this sense, not that he is mauna. His silence in the sense is silence towards the activities of sense gratification. He is silent towards that. But he's always thinking in terms of self-realization. Which activities will make me advance in my spiritualization, in my self-realization goal? Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. One should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. All these qualities together constitute austerity in mental activities. Now, having said this about defined austerity in the body, speech, and mind, he will now say what is austerity in goodness. Shraddhaya paraya taptam tapastat trividham nare afala kankshibhir yukta shatvikam parichakshate. This threefold austerity, performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefits but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity in goodness. Satkarman pujartham tapodambhena chaivayat kriyate tad iha proktam rajasam chalamadhruvam. Penance performed out of pride and for the sake of gaining respect, honor, and worship is said to be in the mode of passion. It is neither stable nor permanent. Okay? It's not permanent, basically. The results you get out of this kind of penance. Penance means also austerity, same thing. Mudha natmano yat vidaya kriyate tapa parasyot sadhanartham va tat tamasam udahritam. Penance performed out of foolishness with self-torture or to destroy or injure others. Means foolishness means out of whims and fancies. Okay. Suddenly they decide that they want to do penance. That's it. And then they're torturing themselves or they're destroying others. Okay. It's said to be in the mode of ignorance. Right. Like Hiranyakashipu did penance. What is the purpose of that huge penance? He was burning the whole universe with his yogic fire, just to gain all the power and then defeat all the demigods and take everything in their country. He actually said, sun god is not required, moon god is not required, Vayu Dev is not required, no one is required. I will do everyone's job. Right? Destroy or injure others. That is the purpose. So, did some summary here. So this is the austerity I summarized, the body, speech, and mind. And then austerity in goodness, they do with faith for sake of Supreme and they expect no material benefit. In mode of passion, they do it out of pride to gain honor, but it is not permanent. In mode of ignorance, they out of foolishness and they do self-torture or to destroy others. But what do transcendentalists? They also do austerity and penance. Because remember, in the beginning of 8th chapter, Lord Krishna says, penance, austerity, and charity should never be given up, even for great souls, because they purify even the great souls. Right? So they do it to purify one's consciousness. Why? So that they can serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead uninterruptedly. Austerity and penance makes you spiritually stronger. You know that you will be able to tolerate these difficult circumstances. And when you tolerate means what? Tolerate not only in terms of sitting at one place quietly. No, your mind is calm. When your mind is calm, you are able to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead uninterruptedly. So that is what transcendentalists aspire for through austerity or penance. Okay. think I missed one. Okay, charity. Charity. Now, charity in the mode of goodness. Datavyam iti yaddanam diyate anupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam. Charity given out of duty without expectation of return at the proper time and place and to a worthy person is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Yattu pratyupakarartham phalam udishya va puna diyate cha pariklishtam taddanam rajasam smritam. But charity performed with expectation of some return or with a desire for fruitive results or even in grudging mood, right, is said to be charity in the mode of passion, right? So here Prabhupada is giving some examples, like for example, they do charity with great trouble and then they later repent. Why I have spent so much in this way? You should not get those feelings. Or you're doing charity because some superior asked you to do. It did not come from your heart. That you should, it's your duty to give charity, and so that is in the mode of passion. Adeshakale yaddanam apatrebhyascha teyate ashatkritam avagyatam tattamasam udahitam. And charity performed at an impure place at an improper time to unworthy persons or without proper attention and respect is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So these people sometimes given charity to people who like ultimately they will use that money for giving wine and meat to all these people, donate them. So that kind of charity is in the mode of ignorance. Okay. So I have kind of summarized this in the charity in this slide. So in mode of goodness, we studied out of duty, they do without expectation of return to a worthy person at proper time and place. They follow all this, right? Then in mode of passion, they do all those things, but then expectation of some return or fruitive result, not without expectation of return. In their mind, they are expecting, oh, I will do this and in return I will gain this. Or they do it, but then they do it in a grudging mood. Oh, so much of hard work, this charity, all this hard work I earned and I have to give it away, that kind of mood they are in. And then these people are in mode of ignorance. They just don't care whom they are giving. Okay, this charity to. They may even give a charity to some thief. Or some people, who are engaged in making sure the people are engaged in just in the name of food, they will give them food, wine, or abominable things they will distribute. They will give charity to those kind of institutions, unworthy persons, right? Without any respect to anyone. So that's in the mode of ignorance. But why do transcendentalists give charity? They also give charity, right? Great souls, because Lord Krishna says you should do penance, charity, right? And austerity you should do. So they give charity to pure devotees, because pure devotees are always there to perform activities which will not only please Supreme Personality of Godhead, but also please all the living entities, for the welfare of all living entities. Selfless service. So that is that giving charity, they give charity to pure devotees. Because why? Because that helps them purify their own consciousness. And also they get blessings of seva. Because when your mind is engaged in seva, you get satisfaction out of it. It is not always troubled that this much work I will do, in return how much I will get. You're not troubled by that consciousness. You are doing seva so that you know that Krishna will be pleased. When Krishna will be pleased, then I will also be pleased. Not that I'm doing this so that I will be pleased. Okay? Because Krishna is the root, and therefore of all the living entities, including the demigods and everyone, so they will all be satisfied when Krishna will be satisfied. Sorry. Okay, I had been speaking for quite some time. don't know if anyone has any question. Let me sharing. Let me go online, see if anyone has question online. Online, there are no questions. Okay. So no one looks like has any question or even comments or feedback. Anything is welcome, or even correcting. Maybe I said something wrong. Quite possible. I'm a living entity. To err is human. So even correcting is also fine. Okay. So I will now go back to the rest of the verses. Om Tat Sat iti nirdesho brahmanastri vidha smrita brahmanastena vedascha yagyascha vihita pura. From the beginning of creation, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. I will read this purport because it's very important. The significance of Om Tat Sat, this verse, Srila Prabhupada has explained in this purport. It has been explained that penance, sacrifice, charity, and foods are divided into three categories: the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But whether first class, second class, or third class, right? What he means is Brahmanas, not Brahmanas, those who are in the mode of goodness, second class mode of passion, and third class mode of ignorance. That's what he means. They are all conditioned, contaminated by the material modes of nature. Right? Those who are in the mode of goodness, that is material goodness, they sometimes becomes proud. Right? When they are aimed at Supreme, Om Tat Sat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Eternal, they become means for spiritual elevation. So spirit in these, spirits of this embodied soul, they have a chance of getting elevated. So this is the formula for getting gradual elevation. But you have to understand what this means, Om Tat Sat. In the scriptural injunctions, such an objective is indicated. These three words, Om Tat Sat, particularly indicate the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vedic hymns, the word Om is always found. It is everywhere. Pranava mantra. It also represents the sound incarnation of Krishna. One who acts without following the regulations of scriptures will not attain the absolute truth. He will get some temporary result, but not the ultimate end of life. The conclusion is that the performance of charity, sacrifice, and penance must be done in the mode of goodness. Performed in the mode of passion or ignorance, they are certainly inferior in quality. At least one should maintain his activities in the mode of goodness. Now, the three words Om Tat Sat are uttered in conjunction with the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Example, Om Tad Vishnu. Om, that is Vishnu. Whenever a Vedic hymn or holy name of the Supreme Lord is uttered, Om is added. This is indication of Vedic literature. These three words are taken from Vedic hymns. So where does Om come from? Om eti etat brahmano nedishtam nama. Okay, is the name of the Brahman. Indicates the first goal, Om. Then Tat came from Tat Tvam Asi. You are part of that Brahman from Chandogya Upanishad 6.8.7. That indicates the second goal. And Sad Eva Saumya. Chandogya Upanishad indicates the third goal. One should be Saumya. Sad Eva. Sad is that Brahman. Is Eva Saumya. Combined, they have become Om Tat Sat. Formerly, when Brahma, the first created living entity, performed sacrifices, he indicated by these three words the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when Brahma, the first living entity of this universe, he was doing sacrifice, he introduced this mantra Om Tat Sat. Means Om is that truth, which is the sound incarnation of Lord Krishna. Therefore, the same principle has always been followed by disciplic succession. So this hymn has great significance. Bhagavad Gita recommends, therefore, that any work done should be done for Om Tat Sat, or for the Supreme Personality of God. When one performs penance, charity, and sacrifice with these three words, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a scientific execution of transcendental activities, not activities under modes of nature, transcendental, beyond the modes of nature, which enables one to return home back to Godhead. Why? Because remember, in the beginning of the chapter, what did we say? It is the kind of activity actually that contaminates our heart. Even though we know what is right, what is wrong through the scriptures, if our heart is in something, that is what we will do. So it actually, through this Om Tat Sat, you are purifying your activities and you are making the activity transcendental. So your heart becomes transcendental. And then you don't worry about all these complexities of goodness, passion, and ignorance. You are now in the transcendental platform and you're doing transcendental activity. Okay. There is no loss of energy in acting in such a transcendental way. Tashmad Om iti udahritya yagyadana tapakritya pravartante vidhanokta shatatam brahmavadinam. Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural injunctions begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. So, their purpose is to attain the Supreme. They want to attain the Supreme. That's the goal of doing sacrifice, charity, and penance. Not for gaining any material gain or reward or harm others. Okay. Their goal is to attain the Supreme. And that should be the goal of every transcendentalist, or at least the people who are aspiring for that state, transcendental state. They should perform sacrifice, charity, and penance with the fact that ultimately I'm doing this is to please the Supreme. Because you want to attain someone, you have to please it, please that person, right? Tad iti anabhishandhaya phalam yagya tapa kriya dan kriyascha vividha kriyante moksha kankshibhi. Without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement. So Om is to attain the Supreme. The word when you use Tat, then you understand everything activity I'm doing is Tat, transcendental. So purpose is to get free from material entanglement. So two things. If you want to go somewhere, you have to leave the place where you are. So Om helps you go somewhere, but for that you have to leave where you are, your material entanglement, and that is Tat. Sadbhave sadhu bhave cha sad iti etat prayujyate prasaste karmani tatha sat shabda partha yujyate yagye tapasi dane cha sthiti sad iti chochyate karma chaiva tad arthiyam sad iti eva bhidiyate. The absolute truth is the objective of devotional service, and it is indicated by the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person. That's the ultimate goal, Son of Pritha, to please the Supreme Person. Now, simply because you left, using Tat, you left the place, the material entanglement, and Om you want to attain the Supreme, right? Here, but ultimately he has to open his door. If he doesn't open the door, even if you go there, you will move around his house. Now he will open the door only when he gets pleased with you and he invites you. So that is that Sat. Okay, the last one. Asraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat ashad iti uchyate partha na chatat pretyano iha. Anything done, so this is the last verse, anything done as sacrifice, charity or penance without faith in the Supreme, you don't have Shraddha in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. Why? Because that sacrifice, charity or penance always will take you to one of the material modes, goodness, passion or ignorance. So you will keep taking birth again and again. Even though you are born in material mode of goodness, you may do some mistake and then you will born in material mode of passion, go down again. So that is why that result is impermanent. It's not permanent. But when you do faith in Supreme, that faith in Supreme means you are trying to please Him. That is your goal of doing charity, sacrifice, charity or penance. Then it is permanent. Then you go back to Godhead. You are in purified goodness at that point. You are not, you're beyond the modes of nature. If you don't do that, that is why Lord Krishna is saying it is called Asat and is useless both in this life and next. Why is saying useless both in this life and next? Because in this life you won't be able to go back to Godhead, and in next life also you have the same attitude of doing all these things without faith in Supreme. Again, you will take another birth after that. You will not be able to go back, because that is the ultimate goal of life. From that context, Lord Krishna is saying it is useless both in this life and the next. Not in the context from where we are, like, we want to get big house and a lot of wealth and all these things. Because all those things at death will go away. Krishna knows that. Transcendentalists don't hanker for that. From that context, Krishna is saying that it will be useless in this life and the next. You won't be able to achieve your ultimate goal. Okay. So this is the last verse. I will read this purport, a small purport. Anything done without the transcendental objective, whether it be sacrifice, charity, or penance, is useless. Therefore, in this verse, it is declared that such activities are abominable. Everything should be done for the Supreme in Krishna consciousness. Without such faith and without the proper guidance, which is the spiritual master or senior devotees, there can never be any fruit. In all the Vedic scriptures, faith in the Supreme is advised. In the pursuit of all Vedic instructions, the ultimate goal is the understanding of Krishna. No one can obtain success without following this principle. Therefore, the best course is to work from the very beginning in Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. That is the way to make everything successful. In the conditional state, people are attracted to worshipping demigods, ghosts, or yakshas like Kuvera. The mode of goodness is better than the modes of passion and ignorance. But one who takes directly to Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all the three modes of material nature. Although there is a process of gradual elevation, if one by association of pure devotee takes directly to Krishna consciousness, that is the best way. So if you are fortunate to have association with a pure devotee, you must not miss it. Because first of all, getting a human life itself is very difficult. After 8.4 million species, you got this life. On top of that, so you have a opportunity to realize yourself. Now, if you are getting an association of pure devotee, you should not miss it, because you don't know what the next life will be. Yeah. And that is recommended in this chapter. To achieve success in this way, actually, the last verses which started with Om Tat Sat, it was actually focusing on that Supreme, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So Krishna's sound incarnation is Om, or sometimes they also call Brahman, basically. Okay. So one should have that faith. It's very important to take advantage of that. To achieve success in this way, one must find the proper spiritual master and receive training under his direction. Then one can achieve faith in the Supreme. When that faith matures in course of time, it is called love of God. This love is the ultimate goal of all the living entities. In this world, we are the reason why we are in these modes, material modes of nature, is because we love different things. but we forget to love that which has produced all these things, and therefore is many times, infinitely many times more pleasurable. That should be our ultimate goal. That is the person whom we should love. One should therefore take to Krishna consciousness directly. That is the message of this 17th chapter. Okay. So, I did not get a chance, but I will still like to read this. Although 4 minutes left, I think at least I should be able to do this summary. So, who was Madhavendra Puri? Madhavendra Puri, in our disciplic succession, Mahaprabhu, you all know Mahaprabhu, Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years back and wanted to spread devotional service or, Sankirtan Yagya throughout the world, every town and villages. Now, his guru was Ishwar Puri. Ishwar Puri's guru was, spiritual master, was Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri's spiritual master is Lakshmipati Tirtha, if I got the name correctly. Pardon if I did not. Shivam Prabhu, you had you wanted to say something? You have to ask to unmute so we can unmute. You have to unmute, Prabhu, then only you can say if you want to say something. Please go ahead. Please go ahead and unmute, Prabhu. And if you want to say something, you can say. Okay, I think Shivam Prabhu left for some reason. Sorry about that. Let's go back to Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Madhavendra Puri actually, yes, Shivam Prabhu, you wanted to say something? Okay. So Madhavendra Puri was Ishwar Puri's guru, and he actually started. So our disciplic succession starts from Brahma, Narad, like that. It comes down, and then Madhavendra Puri's guru, Lakshmipati Tirtha, they are part of the Madhva Sampradaya, and they didn't start the devotional, the bhakti in viraha, in separation, which was what the gopis were doing when Lord Krishna left for Mathura, and that was started by Madhavendra Puri. So let me briefly read through this for a couple of minutes because we don't have much time. So this is from the chapter 4, Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, so Sri Madhavendra Puri's devotional service. In his Amrita Prabhava Bhasya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the following summary of the 4th chapter. Passing along the path of Chhatra Bhoga and coming to Vridha Manteswara, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached the border of Orissa. On his way, he enjoyed transcendental bliss by chanting and begging alms in different villages. In this way, he reached the celebrated village of Remuna, where there is a deity of Gopinath. There he narrated the story of Madhavendra Puri as he had heard it from his spiritual master Ishwara Puri. The narration is as follows. It's a very sweet pastime. One night, while in Govardhan, Madhavendra Puri dreamed that Gopal deity was within the forest. The next morning, he invited his neighborhood friends to accompany him to excavate the deity from the jungle. He then established the deity of Sri Gopalji on top of Govardhan hill with great pomp. Gopal was worshipped and the Annakuta festival was observed. This festival was known everywhere and many people from the neighboring villages came to join. One night, the Gopal deity again appeared to Madhavendra Puri in a dream and asked him to go to Jagannath Puri to collect some sandalwood pulp and smear it on the body of the deity. Having received this order, Madhavendra Puri immediately started for Orissa. Can you believe? From Vrindavan to Orissa, so many miles, he will go walking. And those days it was not simple because there were a lot of Mohammedan provinces and it was very restrictive to go through from one province to another. But he took that risk because it was instruction from Gopal deity. Traveling through Bengal, he reached Remuna village and there received a pot of condensed milk, khira, offered to the deity of Gopinathji. This pot of condensed milk was stolen by Gopinath. Can you believe? Lord stole. He was such a great devotee that Lord, on his behalf, Lord stole the one kheer for Madhavendra Puri. Now, why he did that? Because Madhavendra Puri was not really greedy to get the kheer. He wanted that kheer so that he could know how it tastes, how it is prepared, so that he can prepare for his Gopal deity. That was the reason. It is the seva bhav. And of course, Lord Krishna knows all these things about the heart of a devotee. So he stole one. Okay. This pot of condensed milk was stolen by Gopinath and delivered to Madhavendra Puri. Since then, the Gopinath deity has been known as Khira Chora. Khira means he stole. The Khira means the condensed milk. Gopinath, the deity who stole the pot of condensed milk. After reaching Jagannath Puri, Madhavendra Puri received permission from the king to take out one mound of sandalwood and 20 tolas of camphor. Aided by 2 men, he brought these things to Remuna. Again, he saw in a dream that Gopal at Govardhan hill desired that very sandalwood to be turned into pulp mixed with camphor and smeared over the body of Gopinathji. Because after all, it's the same person, different palms. So he gave permission because he knew it will be very difficult for Madhavendra Puri to get all those sandalwood like he was holding it on his back and he was very old. From Orissa to, he will go to Vrindavan. It's a long way. And it is not guaranteed that he will be able to take it because all these Mohammedans and thieves and dacoits, they may steal. So he said, okay, why don't you put in the Gopinathji's body only? I will get relief because of that. Understanding that would satisfy the Gopal deity at Govardhan, Madhavendra Puri executed the order and returned to Jagannath Puri. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu narrated this story of Lord Nityananda for Lord Nityananda Prabhu and other devotees and praised the pure devotional service of Madhavendra Puri. When he recited some verses composed by Madhavendra Puri, he went into ecstatic mood. But when he saw that many people were assembled, he checked himself and ate some sweet rice prasadam. Thus he passed that night and the next morning he again started for Jagannath Puri. So this is another example from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that they, elevated souls, they never express their ecstasy openly. Okay, only among the confidential devotees they will do that. Okay, but not in public place. But that was the greatness of Madhavendra Puri. Actually, there are many other pastimes, and this summary actually did not do any justice. Unfortunately, I didn't have time. I should have really more time for this. And the reason I'm doing this is because March 3rd is the disappearance day of Madhavendra Puri, and therefore I was, using this time to go through one of his sweet pastimes of Khirachara Gopinath. And there's another wonderful pastime he has near the Govinda Kund, okay, where how Lord Krishna as a cowherd boy comes and takes his hand and takes him to where the deity is, because during the Mohammedans attack, the priest there at that time, he hid the Gopal deity in the bushes, and so he was suffering because of the the rain and all these things, summer and all that. He will take me out from here and make a proper temple and then install me there. And then Madhavendra Puri did just that. And this pastime, what we are reading here, happens after that. So anyway, I will stop the class today. It was wonderful giving the lecture, for giving me the opportunity. Any mistakes I have said, that is on me, and anything you derived from what I shared is because of the credit goes to all Srila Prabhupada and all the Vaishnava Acharyas before that. Okay, I will now stop sharing the screen. Thank you, Shivam Prabhu. Thank you for joining the class, and thank you for all the devotees who joined this class online. I will now close the session. Please remember that this Monday we have Gaur Purnima, birth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that is on March 6th. Please do come to the temple and engage in honoring Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his pastimes with the devotees of ISKCON of Silicon Valley at Mountain View. Hari Bol. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki